G2's win.
Thank you. I'm also very proud of how Krepo has progressed as a brand and as a personality within the EU. No? Okay. Anyways.
Ty was a little bit tilted.
Tilted Ty. All right, guys. It was going to be a theme of the day. Obviously, the lower seeds taking down the higher seed. And Splyce, they put up a fantastic fight. Forg1ven, what do you think happened in that game that pushed G2?
Well, I didn't get to show all the game, but the early game was like a bit stalemate. Some lane swap mistakes from both teams, I think. And then I noticed that like Fiora was getting an insane advantage over Poppy. He played the advantage correctly when Splyce had some really questionable positions, or like they didn't understood their limits properly. Like I don't have any clear conclusion about it, but I think it was a back and forth game. Kobe clutched a lot of situations in my opinion, and I was talking to the fish about how Kobe for me is like the rookie that is upcoming. So
it's a new Forg1ven.
I don't know about it, but I think he has potential to be a really good player, quality player at least. So we'll find out.
We were talking about that quite a bit during the game, back and forth. And, you know, I made the comment to you during the game that I've seen 8 weeks from Kobe plus his challenger, and he hasn't stood out to me. I think, honestly, this is the first game that Kobe has actually looked to the level that you're talking about there, that he actually looks pretty good. I've found he's been quite a quiet player overall the last 8 weeks. So I'm glad to see some progression there.
Definitely. Defisho, you want to take a closer look at some of the Baron dances?
I mean, this game was all about Baron. You know, when we got to mid to late game, both teams were trying to bait out Baron multiple times. This is G2 baiting the Baron, and it's because we had a situation where Splyce were always a little bit late to the party, and then when you have a severe ulti, you just pop it and your entire team just pile on to the first target. And what I really like here, what we talked about as well on the desk during the game, is how they now go back to Baron, because they want to bait it one more time after this play is over, by the way. And then look at Perkz here. This is what makes a playmaker. He's outside of your screen right now, but pan down the camera. I'm using my mind here to pan the camera down to Perkz.
Yeah.
Look at the trap he's setting. This is beautiful. And Copy.
Yeah, that's unlucky.
Goes down like Forg1ven did earlier today.
He hit no summoners, otherwise he would have dodged, I think.
What do you think about that play?
I think it was good. Like Perkz played his role as an assassin in the Baron pit, and even if he dies, the rest are gonna clear for him. And I don't think he could have stayed at Baron. I mean, it's a decision that is happening based on like scrims, for example, like what role everyone has and what you have to do in order to win a team fight or to set it up better for others. I think it was a pretty good move, and ultimately it gave it to the Baron, I think. So.
Yeah, it did. Again, another topic we were talking about during the game was Azir, and Perkz Azir from Challenger. We have seen so many good games, and I was waiting for Azir to become meta. Forg1ven, you were talking about Azir as a champion later in the game, blocking pathways, that kind of thing. What's your thoughts on Azir? Because we've seen him a lot today.
Rio as well.
I think like from every champion I have experienced in the game, at least until this very moment, I think Azir is like one of the most obnoxious things that ever went out. I mean, it's insane. And even if you're not an AD carry, like it works like an Orianna, but you have 10,000 damage more, and you don't need to rely on your ulti only to do something. Like it works like an AD AP carry. So I don't understand this. Like
more or less obnoxious than Tom Kench?
I mean, okay.
Or Rammus.
Rammus, okay. I deleted some. Sorry.
All right, no problem. Let's take a look at the next team fight, because this was the moment where we thought opposite day is actually a thing, because Splyce actually do really well in this one.
It's another Baron, by the way, which again is the theme of this late game here. Even though Wonderway is winning the split push.
Baron theme of a late game in a League of Legends game?
I mean, there were more Baron calls here than normal. Okay. They kept baiting Baron and then they forced fights with it. And it's the same thing G2 is doing again, but it's also where Trashy does recall, if you look at your minimap now, late game. And it's where the shotgun becomes very difficult because a lot of mixed calls. And we can just roll the clip. And we just get to see G2 take the Baron as fast as possible. And now, Forg1ven, you like Copy here. What do you think about his position once he actually re-enters the fight?
Well, they managed to pick Azir, like the others are getting picked, and one guy from G2 gets to the tunnel, so he leaves Emperor alone, and Kobe is like in this position that it's either me or him, and so he just commits instead of backing, like a good player, a bad player would do. And he actually makes a difference, because he recognizes a mistake from the other team, and he capitalizes even if he dies. So I think it was a pretty clutch move from Kobe in this situation.
And I think a mistake from Kick is there, taking the magical journey. Then you suddenly leave your carries alive, you leave them behind. So they're no longer alive because Copy here took care of them.
Yeah, what's your impressions of Emperor? Of course, he's been a big part of that G2 stronghold.
I think individually he's a really strong player. I could legit say that he's like top 3 or like top 2 as a player, but he tends to do a mistake that a lot of people do that play the carry, that like he doesn't recognize his limits or he's not aware of his surroundings in a team fight. Because yes, it's like a PvP game, of course, but there is also the environment that you have to calculate or like be aware of. And Eberor sometimes gives deaths that he shouldn't, but he actually. The other good thing about him is that he will win games for you when you rely on him. Like, he will try, and most likely he will win. He's a gifted player mechanically.
Well, we're talking about 80 carries and 80 carry style. Before we move on to a bigger picture, I want to get an answer from you, Forg1ven. You seem to be the only 80 carry in Europe that isn't looking to buy Cull at any possible opportunity early game. Maybe you could give us a little bit of reasoning behind that?
I mean, okay, I don't buy swiftness boots too, but...
Two things.
I think cool or color, whatever people call it, is fine, but in my opinion, it slows you down early, even if it gives you like 180 gold bonus. Yep. I mean, this gold is not gonna give you any advantage, to be honest. That's my opinion as a player that plays the game for long. But I have been wrong in the past. I mean, and as a player, yes, I can think stuff, but for example, I had this issue with Kalista or other champions I was getting criticized for. So you can actually either agree or like just not take away, but I don't think it makes a difference as an item.
Personal choice, basically. But it also depends on the gold you have when you back. If you have 450 gold on the first back, it is very likely you buy it. If you have like 900, you get a pickaxe instead, as an example.
Yeah. What made you play Kalista actually? Now?
I mean, I want to stop this trend of us banning Kalista on blue side. I mean, we banned it today, but it was more of a draft choice, pretty much. But I know right now that I can actually get this pick out as the main pick. I don't know if I will get to play it in regular season or playoffs, but when I pick something that I like to play, and Kalista is not one of them, but it is so powerful that I will be inevitably good on it.
Yeah.
That's how I would put it. So I give my team a banless, which we can put different. With champion is famous for laning. I have Vander, who is really good support, so I think we can take advantage of the whatever.
The severe effect.
Yeah.
Basically. Or you can play Jhin, who would also win lane.
Yeah, maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future. All right, let's take a look at the standings because it was all kind of crazy here with 1 day left in the spring split. Okay, let's take a look. So, G2 right now undisputed #1. Of course, H2K Vitality, well at 2 and 3. Then the battle for OG UOL Fnatic for 4, 5, and 6 is on, and Elements is locked in 7th, however, and that's just about the only thing that is clear now.
And tomorrow, Fnatic will play Origin. So if they win that game, we should have a tiebreaker between those two teams, unless there is a head-to-head I'm not aware of.
So if Fnatic beat OG tomorrow, and the UOL then lose to G2, there will be a 3-way tie for 4th. If OG beat Fnatic, OG gets 4th.
Okay.
And Fnatic is out of the running, is 6th because of the head-to-head with the Unicorns of Love.
And that means you play proper Vitality.
Yeah, and I have a bit of news to share. Tomorrow, the starting mid laner for Origin versus Fnatic will be Expeke and not Power of Evil.
What a surprise.
Discuss. Not a surprise to you? Why not?
I mean, Power of Evil is a really good player, but he pretty much made it known, or like he just told early to some people in the pro scene that if I don't get to play that good, I guess Expeke will come in for playoffs. I mean, I don't understand how Origin don't work. Like, they have really good players, like Soaz, like pretty much everyone on this team is individually good. Yes, they are maybe underperforming or they don't have some communication problem, but we all know from history that like playoffs is way different than regular season. So I guess we'll find out if that game makes a difference.
So there's a lot of different things here at play, of course. First off, you mentioned Power of Evil. What do you think for a young player like that, who was a shining star on Unicorns of Love and now in this lineup, what's the mental effect of this happening now for him?
I mean, it depends on the player. For him, it has to be, in my opinion, a challenge, because when a veteran comes and takes your place, it means something goes wrong. And you have to understand if it is your fault, or if it's others, or you just don't mix with your team properly. I mean, this will happen. It's 5 people. It can be from different cultures, different gameplay, different everything. So it will happen eventually. But I remember a PoE from UL. Like on Origin, he's not the player that was in UL, but a talent should not go wasted, in my opinion. So I hope the best for him. He's good.
Yep.
And the worst thing is, it's very hard for us to judge. Is it the other Origin members who's not maybe allowing him to be part of a team for whatever reason? Do they not adapt to the way he likes to play or the champions he likes to play? It's so tough always looking just from the outside when a player doesn't fit 100%. A little bit the same with like Gambit last year with you guys, with like CarboShot and forgive me, like this lineup is stacked, you know, and it just didn't work for you guys. You just guys didn't click.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in Origin to know their problems. I mean, as I said before, they're good individual players. I know they tend to play a lot around their bot lane. Fact or justified or not, it's up for discussion. In this meta, I don't think it's that good to play around bot lane, but Niels and Myth are good players. So it's preference. And in Gambit, I mean, it was... I mean, we were all individually good. It was like pretty much what you said, but I think it was more of mismanagement, I would put it, or like pretty much this way. Like I don't want to talk bad about everyone, but I think the power we had as players couldn't transition into LCS states, which was pretty sad because as you see, every Gambit player
Is doing well.
is actually doing well in every single team they are on. So.
Yeah. One last little bit about Origin, at least from my perspective on what we heard last week. Amazing talked about Xpeggy's influence on what he brought as a veteran player, holding the team together and how he was controlling things a little bit more in the late game. I mean, the one thing you can say for an important game like against Fnatic, to lock yourself potentially in 4th spot, to have that calming influence in the late game is probably very beneficial to a team like Origin, who are still 50-50 on who turns up.
I just don't think it's long-term the solution for Origin, because Xpeggy stepped down because he had so many things he needed to do with Origin as an organization. He's the owner of this organization. We've seen it before, you know, way back with Team Solomid and Reginald playing and so on. You had to kind of adapt and force a new mid laner in a sense. Maybe they're just doing it now because they want to make sure they get number 4, get into playoffs. But then what happens in playoffs? Is Xpeggy playing again? What happens in coming to Summer Split? Do we have the same issue?
Yeah. I think it makes for a very interesting mechanic because I mean, they do have, if it works out and it isn't too much of a mental strain on power, they do have that card now, that special thing that none of the other teams have.
Which didn't really work.
No.
Because when they played the card,
That's true.
they felt like they had to do something different. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
We will see tomorrow what happens, actually,
Of course.
what that was like. However, a lot of upsets today as well. Let's touch on the UOL versus H2K game once again there. Sadly, because I want to highlight Steelback actually as a player. Obviously, we have the big story of him playing in Fnatic, and now in the UOL, he just seems to shine more. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, he was forced to be out of LCS in a way because Fnatic chose to get Rekkles back, and he had no other options in Europe, so he went to NA. I think he has improved. I won't say that he is the best for various reasons. I mean, yes, today, for example, he outperformed me in a way. Props to that guy. I think he needs to do that in a way so he can actually make himself a contender for like to be the best AD carry in Europe or his region or in general, wherever he competes. But I think it was a game that we lost and UL didn't win. But, so.
Yeah, you touched on that beforehand. What is the main thing for you that went wrong? You mentioned the pattern from pre-IM.
I mean, our team tends to struggle hard in crucial matches. Like we have lost against G2, we have lost against Vitality, we have lost against Ever, we have lost against UL now. And it's a worrying trend in a way because as a player, I got to play in many teams, good or bad, which like one of them was SK. And SK was a dominant team and we lost crucial matches or crucial best of 5s. So I don't want to see this trend happening again, but on the other hand, I can do whatever individually, but it's a team effort. So.
Are you doubting yourself in that scenario? Or?
No, obviously. Like I obviously have, even if the meta is not around AD carry or whatever you say about it, I still have a belief that individually, as long as I have a brain and fingers to play the game, I will always be the best player in my position because I commit so hard to League, and even though I said that I like the competition that it brings a lot, and for me, it's way better to play against the AD carries that are now in comparison to the past. Like I talked a bit about it with the official.
Yeah,
You can
yeah, no, I mean, it's a super good point because we were just looking at like the 10 AD carries we have in the LCS and some of the AD carries last year who weren't good enough, like Varax and Adri and Jeebus, who were here earlier in the split. You know, they've all been removed now, and picking the worst AD carry is fairly difficult because you're kind of looking at someone like Sunstar, but he's only been here for like 3 games. It's kind of unfair to just point it at him straight away. And then you have a very good group of people who are all very, very good AD carries. They might not be the best, but like Mr. Rales and Koppe, these guys are very, very strong players, just not as strong as we would call the top 3, top 4 AD carries. So you have a very good pool of players if you just look at the AD carry position right now.
Yeah, I think the thing that you guys brought up was that the pool of even the lower players now are better than the pool of AD carries 2 years ago, so to say.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever sees like the players that were playing in the past and how the game was in the past, and now it's a completely different game. Yes, it still has some sort of individuality, but every single time I read patch notes or seasons I play, this gets less and less. So it's more about team effort, communication, have a plan, have someone that can actually be the 6th guy that will tell you objectively what you did wrong and what you did not. So sucks for me, but but it's good. I think it's way better because inevitably the players that are in Europe will have way better practice going to Worlds or to MSI or to wherever they have to compete. So they will be more ready, in my opinion.
They will be. Sorry, I was going to say you touched on coaches briefly there, or the 6th man. How, for you as an individual player who's been working with Prolly, it's not something we've had too much of an opportunity to ask you about.
I mean, I was starting in the past. I never had a coach. I mean, in every single team that I played, I had like a manager or like someone that is day-to-day experiences and stuff. I mean, I respect Prolly in the sense that like he has played in LCS a couple of years. Like he has a legit opinion about the game. I like his personality. Like we have arguments, for example, or I have arguments with some people in the team, or maybe not, but that's up to grabs on what's going on the situation, what is being presented to us. But I value his input a lot. I think we can all improve in general. So does he. I mean, he's probably the best coach I ever had, but on the other hand, I think it's more safe to say that in the future in a way. Like,
sure.
I would like to see how I evolve or he evolves or whoever benefits.
Well, you bring up the best coach you ever had. Of course, Sean's is coaching Vitality. And today, they didn't have the best day, but however, they're still at the top of the table because of your loss. It kind of all aligned for them. They had that loss versus Rocket. What do you think of them?
I think in the end, in a way, we're all human beings, so we will do mistakes. We are designed to do that in a way by our nature. So Sounds had, in my opinion, a not so good draft. But when I had him in Gambit, he knew the game, not to the same extent as Prolly. He's an experienced player, again, not to the same extent, but I appreciated the effort he put for me and for others too, but in the end, I tend to disagree a lot with him about how Gambit could work way better, in my opinion, for example. So, sucks that it didn't work out, but it will happen.
I do think, though, if we look at just Vitality this year, them losing to Rocket is obviously a surprise for everyone. He was a big upset coming in, but we've seen multiple of those today. Normally, the pick and ban phase Vitality does bring is, I like it. Sometimes there are question marks, but there are oftentimes a reason behind it, like the Nasus pick, there was a good reason behind it. This draft, however, against Rocket today was so focused on snowballing early and just playing that 1-3-1 that once they got into teamfights against Rocket, they couldn't really do a whole lot because, like, compare some of the picks. Elise into Gragas, nope, that's a lost team fight. Thresh into Alistar, that's a lost team fight.
It's a pattern, though. We saw the Nasus comp, and they team fought instead of split push.
Well, that was because...
Okay.
So that was
Is it a pattern?
That was a mistake by the team in-game.
Yeah.
Also getting picked off, so they felt like they were forced to go in and start team fighting instead of playing that one forced split push they were supposed to with the fast push of Nasus. So there are definitely mistakes, 100%, but as Forg1ven is saying, every team will still make mistakes. It's just now you need to basically get rid of those few mistakes you do have the next 2 weeks, because then playoffs are here. And yes, it's a BU5, but if you start losing 1 or 2 games to mistakes like this, you might be out.
I think, though, talking about best of fives, Vitality are one of the only teams that have shown us wide flexibility, right? Is like a lot of the top teams have been showing us different picks in certain roles, but as for completely different play styles or team composition styles, we've seen the Bardzillion, we've seen the Nasus, we've seen these kind of comps which are a little bit more what we expect from Vitality. There's a little bit more flexibility, but it's not always working. So I'm interested to see if they can flex that in a best of 5 and how that would play into things.
Yeah, definitely. Forg1ven, G2, H2K, Vitality, you've mentioned some of the issues that you think you're struggling with. What is one of the things that Vitality or G2 does, or maybe some other team in the league, that you wish you could incorporate or that they are really good at?
I think they're really good individually, all of them, and this means that whoever gets the responsibility to carry a game, either by provided resources or either by a plan before the game, he will most likely do it. And they have a coach who is good enough to give them direction to the game. They're all smart and good because I got to play against them or with them a lot of times in the past, now in the future, obviously. So I think what Vitality has to fix, in my opinion, could be their instability in a way, or they're not consistent. Yeah, and it's not about consistency in the game. It's about their inconsistency in banned drafts, in picks and bans. But I don't think it's Son's fault actually. It's maybe more of the players forcing a plan. In my opinion,
Yeah.
my humble opinion.
I mean, it can also be Vitality who are just testing different things coming into place, because they probably came into this week and saying, okay, H2K and G2, they're going to win their games. So we'll be locked into third. You know, we'll play a quarterfinal. Maybe you're testing different kind of compositions and seeing how it works out for you.
But H2K wins or loses that game before you, though.
Hey, I'm just saying, like, the game plan may be coming into it, but no matter what, almost no matter what draft was here, Vitality would be the favorites. They just didn't manage to capitalize at all in the ultimate game. So I think they're still testing different things. And then for playoffs, we might see a more consistent pick and ban phase.
And they played the late game a little bit riskier perhaps than they should have. I mean, that play from Airwax right at the end to hold the game for Rocket was the same kind of play we saw last week that Vitality lost to when Hyanan got caught by a Gragas on a flank. Same things cost Vitality 2 important games now. Credit to Rocket for making that play work, for Airwax just coming out of nowhere and blasting them back. But
It's a trend with the Gragas, man. It's sneaking around the bushes.
He's so big, though. Like,
Big bushes, I guess.
big-
I don't know.
time to move on. To some tweets that you guys sent in. Earlier, we asked you which pro you thought would bring the most to their team in the postseason. And at Laura Charles tweeted, Rekkles will be the most integral player for his team in the playoffs. If he steps up in calling and plays, his team goes off. But in that, is that not the problem exactly? Forgiven, obviously the storyline that has developed here throughout the split was Rekkles shot calling. Yes, no. Transitioning to more people shot calling. What are your visions on that?
I think he was just the least worst guy to take the responsibility of shot calling. I don't think an AD carry shot calling is an ideal thing to exist, at least in Europe. Like except like Hyanan maybe. I don't know any other player in Europe all these years that I'm pro player that actually is a part of shot calling in a team. And we have seen time and time that if you actually manage to do good shot calling, it will take away power from your own play. And it depends, what do you want? Because in a Fnatic, struggling in the early in the season, Rekkles, I guess, could have made a difference more if he didn't have the responsibility of shot calling. I mean, he's good individual player too, maybe not one of the top of the top, but he still is a player that has played in Worlds, he has won the splits, he did a lot of things, so, don't know.
So your role in H2K in terms of communication, from what you were saying, you're actually not expected to really provide a whole lot in information on shot calling? Like, you're expected to focus on your own individual performance?
I mean, it's a mixture. I guess I still give information when I think I have to, if we didn't practice it in scrims or if we don't know it's a pattern or whatever. But I think information in general is a really integral. I think the word's correct. Integral part of the game at the moment, way more than it was in the past. And I think every player should be balanced in this. Like, you shouldn't be a player that like plays for 40 minutes and you don't open your mouth once.
No, that'd be bad. You gotta call out team.
Team? Where are you? Where are you? Were you leaving me? All right. Our next tweet is from @LAT Road. Sven lol by far. Yeah, we got it in. I feel that when Sven is performing, Origin is performing as well. If not, Origin crash and burn. Of course, a lot comes down to also resource allocation, as you hinted to as well. It is very obvious that the resource allocation for OG goes down down bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the stats, the post of Crepo about like Origin giving like 12 or 11 creeps per second, per minute into Origin, and like that guy getting like 20k gold per game, and everyone else getting like 10 or 12. But on the other hand, somehow you have to win. And how are you gonna do this? Who is the most reliable and available player to do that in Origin? Like from the start of the split to now? I think the answer is pretty obvious.
Do you think that that's why in the couple of weeks in the split, we noticed that Sven sometimes was being more aggressive and caught out than he had actually ever been for as long as we've seen him playing. Do you think that's also the pressure and wanting to make those plays and having not the team back him up as much as they did last split?
I mean, every player is gonna do mistakes.
Yeah.
For example, like today, I did a mistake and I gave like one death that I could have dodged if I bailed off my team. But sometimes you can't do something about it. And I think that Nils has a lot of pressure on his shoulders on the current form of his team. And I don't think it's also ideal for an AD carry to play 1 year like this, or even like a split. I think it's really unhealthy in terms of mindset. It's only you and nobody else. I mean, I don't know. It's up to discussion about what everyone thinks, but my opinion is this. So.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Finally, maybe tomorrow, OG versus Fnatic then, because we're talking about Sven, because we're talking about Rekkles, because we know that Expect is playing. Predictions, guys, for 4th place. Who wants to go first?
I'm going to go first. I'm actually going to say Origin. Like, I feel like Peke didn't do a bad job while he was playing. He did a fine job, and I think his influence later in the game seems to have some sort of an effect on Origin. The games that they won with him weren't pretty, and they probably should have lost both of them, but maybe it'll just be enough.
Coming into the week, I would say Fnatic 100%. It's no longer 100%, but I'm still on the Fnatic. Very, very small and slow moving hype train. I think the pick and ban phase will change a lot for tomorrow. I think it will go back to more of the picks that worked at IEM. I don't want to see Soraka. I think against, the options of 1-3-1ing Soraka is just so weak, and Clyde didn't really have an impact on it at all. So I expect him to go back to IEM pick and ban phase, and then I think they are still the stronger team and they will win.
Forgiven.
I think Origin. I don't see how a Fnatic can actually do something against Origin. Yes, sure, they can drag the game for the first 20, 30 minutes or something, but at some point, I think Origin will prevail. If it's a Baron throw or whatever, win is a win. And seeding is up for grabs, so that's my opinion.
All right.
Yeah, there is a lot up for grabs. I'm just double checking my notes very
We'll
quickly.
have the matches in a second.
Yeah, no,
as
it's
well.
not the matches. I just wanted to double check whether we've seen Trundle out of SOAS, because I think if we have, that is such a good pick to shut down Fnatic. As I'm flicking through like 10 pages to double check.
I have it in my head, so someone buzz me and confirm, because...
I mean, I know we've seen it from him before.
Yeah, before.
We
but
haven't
not
seen it
before
this
specifically.
split.
But the thing about Trundle is, I can play Trundle.
Right, well...
So SOAS can
hopefully,
definitely play Trundle.
Right,
Does he
up in
want
the
to,
top
is the question.
But,
Well,
I
if
mean,
you're against full tank top laners like Gamsu is...
And Elements today just went, okay, second rotation Trundle, good luck Gamsu. What have you got?
Worst case, it's a ban coming into it. I know it's not a great ban, but you might have to.
He hasn't played it yet.
Yeah.
Some birdie.
Last year,
Last year,
somewhere.
obviously he has, but yeah, it's been around for a long time. Anyway, we still have to crown our Fantasy MVP, and in the final days of the Spring 2016 Fantasy LCS, Steelback is hoping to give you the last-minute surge you need. 9 kills, 6 assists you haven't, without dying once, for a total of 33 fantasy points. I'm sorry to bring it up Forg1ven, yeah, but, he was good.
Yeah,
Game
he
for
was
him.
good. He is on my team down in the Caster League. It's me versus Spellsy for the #1 spot. Hopefully he's going to win it. Spellsy has like 3 Immortals players though, so I'm not confident.
Yeah, no. All right. There he goes. Okay, and the European LCS Spring Split Round Robin continues tomorrow, when we'll start the day with H2K versus Elements. You guys are up first, and G2 versus UOL. Very, very important game for possibly that first place, and Origin and Fnatic. H2K versus Elements, obviously, with the odds, how they have gone. Elements, that's our match of the week, also Origin versus Fnatic. We've discussed it a lot. After the setback of today, how good can you guys come into that matchup versus Elements?
I think it's up to its player's personality and what review we're gonna do later in the day. I know for sure that today I got really agitated on how we lost the game, because, as I said, it's something that we did a mistake, and when we continuously did a mistake, and when we did a mistake again. And I think in top level League of Legends, you shouldn't be allowed to do that even against teams like UOL, sorry, UOL, but like they're not G2, for example. They're not like, I don't know, like in North America, who is first? I don't remember, I'm sorry. Immortals. Yeah, I mean, they're not Immortals, but they're still a good team, but not to that extent, And if you want to do something in playoffs, then this thing is, in my opinion, shouldn't happen again. So it's up to people, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the right mindset as well. Definitely.
I mean, it's a must-win game, of course, especially because it's one of the bottom 4 teams. You have to be able to take them out easily, almost. So, not easy. That's a bit harsh, because Elements are playing better, but HK will be the big favorites and they have to be able to win this game. Otherwise, if you drop out of the top 2 now, it's on you. I mean, you came into this week big favorites and you had 2 pretty easy games.
Yep.
And the Elements are a good team too. I mean, one could make arguments about the solo lanes, for example, but if I look, for example, personally at the remaining players, Promiscure is like an upcoming support talent, like he's a good mechanical player. Rekkles always has been all around Europe LCS. Like always a really stable player, will never do mistakes, will never win you the game either, most of the times, but still he is not a guy that is gonna lose it for you, like randomly positioning or teleporting at 60 minutes in mid lane, you know? Julius is like number 2 in Europe West ladder after me. But,
Steve's been doing good.
I mean, I can't say for sure for the solo laners, like, but I know the rest of their team is pretty good, and if they can have a healthy mindset in the future, they can be greater than they are right now.
And they're playing without worries because they have that 7th spot. They're safe.
I don't know whether I fully buy into that. I think if you look at their matchups this week, they go, okay, let's just plan for Fnatic. It's more likely that that is the one that we can exploit. So maybe they planned a lot for that. We'll see how they play loose tomorrow.
We will see what happens. We almost have to go. I do want to ask you one more thing, Forg1ven.
Sure.
You always have those retweets that are super topical, and sometimes it's from 3 years ago. How do you do it?
I mean, like, I just join a profile on of a pro player, and I see if he has like 500 tweets, and I just scroll for like 10 years until I go to bottom. Like, I would like to do it to the physio, but he has like 5,000 tweets.
8,000.
So
CBA.
8,000. That's how I make sure you don't do it to me. I just spam tweets.
That's almost as much as you say on air when you're given the chance, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's very, Forg1ven, it's very, very entertaining. I'd also like to thank you for being on the desk. Some very good info. I hope you enjoyed it.
I mean, I had fun. I never did it in the past. Maybe in the future, if I'm available, I would like to do that again.
Let our people call your people, and we'll see.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
No, it has been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and good luck tomorrow. And in
Same.
playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Same.
I mean, I hope we do good for the sake of everyone. I don't know that. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. We need to go on cooldown. We'll be back tomorrow. I'd like to, Forg1ven, extend thank you and so much. And thank you to Stress and the Fisho also, and to everyone here. We'll see you guys right back here tomorrow for the exciting conclusion of the 2016 EU LCS Spring Split. Bye.
But also before host, by the way.
Amazing, doesn't have anything to keep him in place, but